In this video, we're going to be looking at some of the possible challenges that a young married couple faces early on in their marriage and some possible solutions they can apply as they navigate these rather challenging situations. Hi, my name is Earl Hendricks, and this is the third of a 5-part series on marriage. Is it all that? During the initial stages of marriage and courtship and all of that, we would be on what is commonly called cloud nine with our loved ones and our spouse or future spouse, and all seem to be nice and rosy until you actually step through that door and start living together. This week we're going to be looking at some of these challenges, and the first one that we're going to be considering is the matter of children. I remember before we actually got married, our pastor counseled us about if we wanted to have children and so on, and we both did. That is something that we just discussed before we actually got married, and we're on the same page, thankfully, on that. However, we were cautioned that it would be wiser for us to plan to wait about a year to give ourselves some time to get used to each other before the children or the child comes along. And here's a reason for that. We are individuals, and placing a third individual in the middle of two people who are new to each other can present more challenges. So we both took that advice, and so we planned our family, and her first child was not born until 2 years after we got married. Thankfully, we were prepared for her, and she has been a joy to us ever since. We've had another child 3.5 years after, and they are both grown and doing very, very well. Why am I sharing this? Well, the fact of the matter is that as I hinted at it, there needs to be a certain amount of planning or family planning prior to starting to have children, because they present their own sets of challenges. They are adorable, but they can present some challenges and some strain on the marriage itself. Okay, how many of you like to sleep? Well, I guess most of us like to enjoy a nice nap and sleep through the night. Well, I have news for you. Those days might be limited when those kids come along, because they have their own timetable. God bless you if you have a child. After you feed that child and put him or her to bed in the evenings or in the nights, they sleep through the night. But let me tell you something, not all of them are like that, and I'm speaking from experience. So prepare yourself to have shortened sleep, as well as some challenges when those kids come along. Recognize, gentlemen, especially I'm speaking with, that even though your wife is at home with that child comes along, and she seemingly have time at home, you try to spend some time with that child on the weekend, and you see how taxing that is for your wife. So if you can, when you come home and she needs a little break, give her a break, because I believe that this will also help to enhance how she looks at you, the fact that you're concerned about the time that she has spent with the child during the course of the day while you're away, and at least she gets a little break for herself. Give her about an hour or so at least an hour or two possibly, where she can really relax and recuperate, because I've seen the effects of having these kids, and it can be challenging. And while we're on the subject of kids, these kids, you'll realize they grow up pretty fast, and pretty soon those little toddlers are pulling things off shelves and so on, and they reach a stage where they are going to need some sort of guidance. The Bible tells us that foolishness is in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction will drive it far away from them. And we're not talking about physically hitting a child. We don't believe in that. We're talking about correcting, just like that rod is actually used. If you think about that the shepherd with that rod actually use that rod that has a hook on the end of it to pull that sheep back in line when that sheep is straying. It doesn't actually use that rod to beat the sheep. So some people have that misconception when they read the Bible that you should, hit a child. I don't believe that is a good thing to do. There are different ways in which you discipline, and this brings me to the second point. How do you discipline children? Both of you need to sit down and decide as to the methods that you're going to be using to discipline children, because they do need guidance, folks. They come to this world adorable, but they do have things in them that needs to be corrected and to be guided. They don't know any better. They're babies. So it's up to you, the adult, to actually set boundaries and set things in place. Now, how you decide whether it is you, the father, or the mother, or both, that's totally up to you how you decide. There are no hard and fast rule as to who to do what. But something needs to be in place in order to guide your children so that when they grow up, they become balanced individuals in society. All right, the second thing that I want to highlight is the matter of finance. Of course, it takes quite a bit to have a child these days. Various statistics have shown that handling money in marriage is sometimes one of the biggest causes of separation and divorce. And I guess the reason for this is that it is such a sensitive topic, and if it's not managed properly, then the couple can find themselves at odds with each other very, very quickly into the marriage. And this is where I suggest that decide how you're going to be managing your finances. There are different approaches to it. You could have a joint account where both of you pool your resources together and pay all your utilities, mortgage, everything from that. Or you can have separate accounts and you paid from that. Or you could have one joint account and two separate accounts. There are numerous ways in which you can handle things, folks, but decide on how this is going to be done early on in marriage, and you're going to find that you're going to be having less stress. Let's say that you decide on the joint account for both of you because you're one and you decide to just pull everything together, and one of the partners is not very frugal, whether it's the husband or the wife, and but they do have access to their account. It's a joint account after all. The husband decided to surprise his wife with a very expensive gift, and goes ahead and gets a gift for her. Then there are other expenses that comes in that month that were supposed to have been paid, but the husband is not someone who pays attention to the finance. His wife normally does. This can be a very, very challenging situation here, because as much as his intention was to surprise his wife, if he didn't know what was going on in the balancing of the books and so on, and the balance in the account, this could cause a problem. Both of you need to understand that finances are not unlimited, and even though you might be paid weekly, fortnightly, monthly, however you're paid, you still need to have some sort of method in place or some sort of system in place to ensure that all the bills are covered each month, mortgage, light, utilities, etc. Okay, and in spite of the fact that you might want to surprise each other. Now, I mentioned that you could also have this joint account as well as a separate account, and sometimes this can help to ease that situation that I just mentioned earlier, wherein both husband and wife have a separate account where they can put their extra into, and they can surprise their wife or their husband in this manner. Okay, of course, now you have the responsibility to ensure that you have sufficient funds in there before you can do that. So decide on the method that you want to go ahead and use, and then stick to it so that there won't be any conflicts further on down the road. Last week in closing, I'd mentioned a couple of these points. So one of the points I'd mentioned was academics and studies that one or both of the couple may want to pursue or had in mind before they got married. And I mentioned that this nothing is wrong with that, because as young individuals, you're going to want to pursue academic goals and that sort of thing. However, you need to consider very wisely as the timing and everything, because here again is where having a child can get into the way of your studies and all of that. So make sure that in making your plans for the future in the academics, that both of you sit down and discuss the timing for having children, if you plan to do that, and how long your course of study is going to take, and also the expenses that's going to be involved, because remember, it's going to be both of you coming together now to make this work for both of you. Finally, I'm going to be touching on a very sensitive topic, and we've been talking most of this video about having children and the effects of marriage and so on. But what about if after a while the couple realize that they can't get pregnant? This can be a very, very challenging situation, guys, and I've observed and I've seen where this has put a lot of strain on marriages. Unfortunately, sometimes it also can lead to separation and divorce. It needn't be that way, because there are various avenues in which this couple can get help. So let's get back to that couple who probably haven't challenged having a child. What do? Well, my suggestion is to, if you're part of a local church, talk to your local pastor, and he or she, as the case may be, should be able to guide you or to put you on to someone who can possibly assist you in this area. So don't keep it to yourself. There are numerous resources out there. Also, if you're savvy on the computer, you can Google and see where the various counseling centers are near to you that you can actually go to, or they can actually speak to you over the phone and so on. So friends, these are some of the points that I thought I'd highlight this week with you. These various challenges that can come in marriage, and possibly some workaround that I shared with you. I indeed hope that you found value in this week's video. I'm trying to release these videos on a weekly basis on a Wednesday, so look out for them. Next week, I'm going to be looking at the situation of resentments, unfulfilled expectations, infidelity, and jealousies that sometimes do occur in marriage as well. I don't think you're going to want to miss this. So tune in next week as we go into these in more detail. So until then, this is Earl Hendricks, and ta-ta for now.